Once upon a time, on a cold winter's morning, there lived two sisters named Belle and Rose. Belle was very loving and she cared about everyone, but Rose was the complete opposite. Rose hated everything. There was only one thing that she really loved, and that was flowers. Every day she would go to the flower shop in town and buy a bunch. Belle was getting ready to leave the castle to go to the library. She was getting dressed, brushing her teeth, washing her face and brushing her hair. She was about to leave when Rose said she was going to the flower shop to get a bunch of flowers.
Belle was on her way to the library to visit her father where he worked. While she was walking to the library, she noticed Rose picking up some brightly coloured flowers of his shop. Belle did not take any notice, and Rose continued to walk past.
When Belle arrived at the library, she saw her father sitting reading a book. Her father, John, didn't take no notice until Belle said hello. "Oh, hello, Belle. Would you like your favourite book?" Belle said, "Actually, no. Dad, I just came to see you since it's been nearly a week since I saw you last." "Oh, that's nice of you. Well, I have news. Tomorrow I have a day off work, so I have decided to go hunting down towards their abandoned farm," said John. "Oh, that will be nice," replied Belle. Belle waved goodbye to her dad and shouted, "See you tomorrow."
When Belle arrived back at the castle, she told Rose that their dad is going hunting down by the farm tomorrow. Rose thought to herself and a plan came into her head. Meanwhile, Belle was still reading her book that she had taken from the library. At the library, their dad was exhausted. He kept counting down the hours until his boss could tell him he was free to go. Dad was so relieved, months without a break, and he was finally having a day off.
Earlier the following day, John awoke and he gathered his belongings and made his way into the forest. He followed the long path and was soon at the farm. Rose was also awake early, and it was time for the plan to take place. Rose tried to sneak out of the castle to follow John to the farm. However, Belle had spotted her sneaking out around trying to leave the castle. Belle asked Rose where she was going. Rose nervously said that she was going to the library. Belle immediately knew that was a lie. As she hated books, she hated all those words and all those dusty pages. Belle decided that she would follow Rose. She followed her through the forest, hiding behind trees and walking silently along the paths. It felt as if she was following her forever. Finally, she arrived at the old abandoned, neglected farm. Earlier the following day, John awoke and he gathered his belongings and made his way into the forest. He followed the long path and was soon at the farm. Rose was also awake early, and it was time for the plan to take place. Rose tried to sneak out of the castle to follow John to the farm. However, Belle had spotted her sneaking out around trying to leave the castle. Belle asked Rose where she was going. Rose nervously said that she was going to the library. Belle immediately knew that was a lie. As she hated books, she hated all those words and all those dusty pages. Belle decided that she would follow Rose. She followed her through the forest, hiding behind trees and walking silently along the paths. It felt as if she was following her forever. Finally, she arrived at the old abandoned, neglected farm.
As Rose walked towards the farmhouse, she could hear footsteps. She quickly turned around. Belle was stood there, nowhere to hide. The girls were shocked to see each other and they started to argue. "What are you doing?" asked Belle. "Why did you lie about going to the library?" Rose just stood there. She was angry that Belle had followed her. "It's got nothing to do with you," she shouted. "Leave me alone. I want to be alone."
With that, Dad appeared. He had heard the noise and followed the sound. He was shocked to see his two girls at the farm arguing. He asked the girls what they were doing there and demanded them to return home. He explained to the girls that it was too dangerous for them to be eaten there.
There was another bang. The door flew open. In the doorway there was a giant-like figure. The beast was covered in grey fur. His teeth were long like knives. His eyes were blood red. It looked like he looked evil. He filled the doorway. His shoulders touched the frame. He left a humongous roar. The girls screamed. They began to panic. They were terrified. They started to run towards the door. They couldn't get out. The door was locked. They looked for another exit. It was then the beast moved closer. He stopped. He couldn't focus. There was two girls. They looked identical. It was all too much for him. He fainted. The girls stood still,
confused about what happened. They needed to think how they were going to escape. They sat thinking about how they would get out. The sun peered through a small gap in one of the dust-covered windows. The ray of light shone on the beast, who lay motionless. There was a twinkle. The key to the door glittered as it lay strapped to the belt of the beast. Rose stood first. She crept towards the beast and knelt by his side. She untied the key and threw it to Belle, who stood and watched. "Run, Belle," wailed as she could see the fingers of the beast begin to move. The girls sped to the door. They tried to put the key in the lock, but their hands shook nervously. Finally, the key slipped into the hole. The lock clicked and the girls ran outside. They were free. Outside, they were not with cries of joy from their dad. They were pleased to see each other. They stood and hugged. Roar! The beast appeared. He stood dazed by the sunlight. Dad ran towards the barn and pushed the beast. He staggered backwards. Dad pulled the door and locked the beast inside. There was no escape for him now. "Run, Belle!" shouted. Rose, Dad and Belle headed back towards the forest, along the path and towards home. They were safe, away from the beast and back in the safety of the castle grounds.